Before the beginning of this video, I'll just point out that this list is not based upon any of the respectable ships' capabilities, but in overall terms this list is just built upon how badass I think these ships are. This list is purely my top 5 favorites. At number 5 we have the Z-95 Headhunter. This ship was a fairly early ship used in the beginning stages of the Rebel Alliance. It served the Alliance well and was a very respected ship throughout its life in the Alliance. Sadly, however, it could not stay, as the ship was built back in the days before the Clone Wars. There was a different version of it though that came out in 21 BBY, and it had something that many other Republic ships lacked: a hyperdrive. It was 11.8 meters long and had a maximum atmospheric speed of 1,150 kilometers per hour. It was, with its hyperdrive, capable of reaching maximum accelerations of 2,780 g. Surprisingly, that still wasn't enough to outrun a Venator that was literally about 100 times bigger at 1,137 meters in length. It was armed with 2 laser cannons and 2 concussion missile launchers with 3 missiles for each tube. It could carry 85 kilos of cargo and had consumables worth of 1 day. Also, buying a new one would cost you 80,000 credits, and the ship is referenced in Star Wars Empire at War PC game, as well as in various mods for said game. Fourth on the list we have the Y-Wing. The BTL Y-Wing starfighter was a heavy starfighter used extensively by the Rebel Alliance. Earlier versions were made of it in the Clone Wars, where you could see Anakin flying one, using it to disable the ion cannon on the Malevolence. It cost 135,000 credits new, and it was 23.4 meters long. The Y-Wing was the ship that the Rebels used when they needed some real serious firepower. They were often referred to as the workhorse of the Alliance fleet. They were mainly used as bombers and were armed with 2 laser cannons in the nose and 2 turreted light laser cannons just above and behind the cockpit. It also had 2 torpedo tubes that had 4 torpedoes for each tube, as well as proton bombs. It carried an astromech droid as well as some really strong shields for a fighter. Luke Skywalker said it best in Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3D from 1998, when he described the Y-Wing as moving like a sleepy hut. So it was necessary for the Y-Wing to have both shields and hull, as it was very slow and not very maneuverable. It was capable of reaching 2,700 g per maximum acceleration and about 1,000 kilometers per hour in atmosphere, which was not very fast. Again, even a Venator could fly faster in light speed with 300 g. A Venator that in this case is about 50 times the size of a Y-Wing. Third on the list we have the B-Wing. Now remember that if this was a list over the best and not my favorite starfighters, then this ship would most likely be on the number 2 spot on this list. Maybe even the first. The B-Wing was designed by Admiral Jial Akbar, who sought to replace the aging Y-Wing starfighter with some more powerful ship that could both be faster and more agile and more maneuverable, but was still capable of dealing just as much, if not more, damage than what the Y-Wing could. Describing this ship, Admiral Akbar has some words to say on the matter. "You're among the best pilots of the galaxy. You'll have to be if you want to control this starship." Some people also referred to this ship as the Blade Wing because of its shape and design. The cockpit was surrounded by a unique gyro stabilization system so that the pilot could always remain stationary, even as the rest of the ship was rotating during flight. Some might say that's a good thing, some might say it's a bad thing. I don't know. It's about preference. It cost 220,000 credits new and about 120,000 credits used, and was introduced around the time of the Battle of Yavin. It just didn't quite make it there on time. Then again, with it being 16.9 meters in length, 2.9 meters in width and 2.5 meters in height, 7.3 meters when its wings were folded out, I might add. It was probably too big to fit down in the Death Star trenches anyway. Nevertheless, this fighter was a heavy hitter that could do some real serious damage to anyone who should oppose it. Only the best Imperial pilots had a proper chance of defeating this fighter in a dogfight, and only the most experienced Rebel pilots and later New Republic pilots were even allowed to fly it in the first place. Second on this list we have the RZ-1 A-Wing starfighter. Ah yes, that wonderful A-Wing. What negative things can really be said about it? Nothing, if you ask me. The A-Wing was the fastest fighter in the Rebel Alliance and later New Republic. It was made with the intent of keeping up with and even defeating the TIE interceptors of the Galactic Empire because the X-Wings were too big, too slow, and not maneuverable enough to hold back TIE interceptors. So, a new ship was needed, one that would be able to protect the A-Wings as well as working independently and striking hard and fast with deadly firepower. The A-Wing was actually really small compared to other fighters in the Rebel fleet. 9.6 meters to be exact, and yet it packed impressive firepower, hyperdrive, and everything that an independent fighter would need. Maximum acceleration was 5,100 G, just about the fastest that I've ever seen in Star Wars. This ship was so fast that it could even outrun point defense lasers, weapons which were optimized for anti-fighter duties, which speaks volumes about how fast this ship really was. At the Battle of Endor, you see this ship outrunning point defense lasers, but an X-Wing does not. The only point where it is somewhat lacking is in its durability. Its incredibly high speed came at a severe cost of hull strength, so once its shields were down, it was pretty much destroyed, taking the next hit, unless the pilot was really good and evading more combat. Thing about the A-Wing though was that only the best Rebel Alliance pilots, just like with the B-Wing, were actually allowed to fly it. Wedge Antilles did at some point, however he ultimately decided on keeping his X-Wing. So, for all this, I think this A-Wing earns the number 2 spot on my top 5 list. And finally we have my number 1, and I think you all know where I'm going with this. The Incom T-65 X-Wing starfighter. The X-Wing, where to begin? It was like a medium tank of World War II. It was the almost perfect balance of speed, firepower, and maneuverability all in one package. It was a magnificent starfighter to say the least, and it really showed the Empire that the Rebel Alliance pilots and their X-Wings were serious forces to be reckoned with. The price per ship was about 150,000 credits, however, models sold for 90,000 credits were they used. These ships traveled with 1,050 kilometers per hour in atmosphere, even faster if it had deflector shields on, and could go up to 3,700 G per maximum acceleration. With all that said, the 12.5 meter long ship did what it was supposed to do. This fighter was the one that destroyed both Death Stars and kept fighting on long into the times of the New Republic in the Legends timeline. As otherwise, in The Force Awakens you see the T-70 class of X-Wing, a new and modernized version of the original X-Wing. It carried 4 laser cannons and 2 proton torpedo launchers, with 3 torpedoes in each tube. The hull was made not just from steel or durasteel, but titanium, and could take a hit or two before going down. We have however seen this ship's weaknesses. It didn't manage to outrun point defense cannons on the Executor like the A-Wing did, as I also mentioned above. However, when this ship was in its optimal fighting conditions, it wreaked havoc on the Imperial TIE fighters, which were no match for the X-Wing in any possible way. This ship remained a constant pain in the backside of the Empire, and wherever there were rebels you could be sure that, at least in space, there were also X-Wings. Also, Like other ships, the X-Wings did not require a carrier ship, as they were perfectly capable of traveling in hyperspace on their own. With that said, I think it is safe to say that the X-Wing does, no doubt, deserve the #1 spot on this list. Now, of course, again, remember that these lists don't always, if ever, go for what ship has the better stats and specs. This is purely another list based upon what I really like and how I see these ships. If you don't agree with me, that's awesome. If you do agree, well, awesome. Let me know what you think about these top 5 videos in the comment section below, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as well as checking out my Patreon page. This was me, Lord Zerk, once again, happy to entertain you all, and may the Force be with you. Always.